Law panel begins UCC consultations. Seeks views from public and religious bodies. Congress hits out at the Law Commission.
It looks like a political agenda because there is only one political party in the country whose manifesto has repeatedly called for implementing the Uniform Civil Code, which is the BJP.
Congress calls it government's attempt to polarize. BJP hits back at Congress. Calls Congress pseudo-secular.
जो कॉमन सिविल कोड की दिशा में जो भी गवर्नमेंट ऑफ द डे है उसको देश को तैयार करना चाहिए, आगे बढ़ना चाहिए। लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली मैंने कहा ना कि हर सुधार पर कम्युनल वार करने की कुछ लोगों की आदत बनी हुई है।
Is India ready for uniform civil code? Top focus on India first.
In a truly secular democracy, should laws not be made by Parliament? Should laws in a secular democracy not be equal and same for all citizens of the country, irrespective of their religion or gender? In 21st century India, should laws governing property, marriage, divorce, inheritance and succession not treat all citizens, men and women, equally? Is it not then time for the Uniform Civil Code? Let's debate. Joining me on India First, Sanju Verma represents the BJP. Saira Shah Halim is an activist. Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali is the director of World Institute of Islamic Studies. I want to begin by asking you, Saira Shah Halim, is this the right time for Uniform Civil Code?
Yeah. So good evening, Gaurav. Good evening to all my panelists. First, I'd like to say the debate on Uniform Civil Code is as old as the Constitution itself. I mean, it was something that was discussed in the Constituent Assembly, and it was decided that the Uniform Civil Code is desirable. That is the reason it is in the directive principles of state policy. Because here our Article 44 of the Indian Constitution very clearly states that the state shall endeavor to secure a uniform civil code to the citizens throughout the territory of India. But my question, Mr. Sawant, is this: do we have a architecture of the draft ready? Are all the communities in unison with the Uniform Civil Code, or is it just about the Sharia that is going to be done away with? Because firstly, we need to ask the stakeholders of all the communities, and here I'd like to pinpoint that is the majority community okay with the status of the Hindu undivided family, the status that they get? Are they okay with doing away with it? Are they okay with the inheritance laws being
But shouldn't we have common laws? That's the question that we are raising for all, irrespective of religion. Sanju Verma, respond to allegations that are being made by the opposition parties and especially the Congress that this is being done to polarize the society ahead of 2024 elections.
You know, Gaurav, first and foremost, let me tell you that as Saira mentioned, Uniform Civil Code is mandated under Article 44 of Directive Principles of State Policy, but they did not become law for the simple reason.
It is desired, it is not mandated.
Let her please finish. I did not heckle this lady.
One by one, ma'am, let her make her opening statement.
Can you stop heckling me, whoever you are? Thank you. Yes. Gaurav, so let me restart because I was heckled by the other panelist. Directive Principles of State Policy under Article 44 mandate that Uniform Civil Code should be implemented. But why has it not become a law is for the simple reason that Directive Principles of State Policy were never made legally enforceable by the founding fathers of our Constitution. But the most important thing is this, and I don't think there is any other stakeholder higher than the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has spoken in unison, not once but on umpteen occasions. In 2017, when Justice Kehar was the Chief Justice of Supreme Court, a two-judge bench of Justice Kehar and Justice Chandrachud obviously is now the CJI, They clearly said, while listening to a petition filed by Clarence Pies with respect to the case involving Molly Joseph versus George Sebastian, Clarence Pies said that a divorce granted by the church should be legally valid in India, and Justice Kehar and Justice Chandrachud said that the only divorce which is legally valid, even if it is a Christian marriage, is a divorce granted by the Indian courts and not by the church. And Justice Kehar said that personal laws are subservient to the constitution. And Gaurav, just in 20 seconds, I'll tell you one more. A landmark judgment as recently as July 2021 by Justice Pratibha Singh of the Delhi High Court. I will read out in 20 seconds what she said. She said, in modern Indian society, which is gradually becoming homogeneous, traditional barriers of religion, community and caste are slowly dissipating. The youth of India belonging to various communities or religions who solemnize their marriages ought not to be forced to struggle with issues arising due to conflicts in various personal laws, especially in relation to marriage and divorce.
Okay.
The time now is therefore ripe for uniform civil code to be implemented. This is Justice Pratibha Singh.
Let me then take it to
Delhi 2 years
Zeenat
back.
Shaukat Ali. Okay, Zeenat Shaukat Ali, in your appreciation, is this the right time to seek diverse opinion and then come around for the Uniform Civil Code? After all, this is an issue that the nation has been grappling with since the Constituent Assembly till 2023.
I think, it's time for us now not to evade this issue and not to, shut it out, but to open the case out and to study what the Uniform Civil Code is all about. And I think these great apprehensions that I have been hearing, from various panelists on different, on different media shows, it goes on to show that, what actually is the Uniform Civil Code and what was the dream of the founding fathers of the Constitution of India. So, and what is it based on? So to my mind, I think, yes, the time is right. And I think that the Uniform Civil Code reaffirms a commitment to a cardinal principle of equal rights in the legal sphere for all communities alike. This is cutting across Hindus, Muslims, Parsis, Sikhs, all communities of India. And justice is the cornerstone of the courts.
Yes.
I think the main balance, to me, and the importance of the Uniform Civil Code is justice, which has not been somehow or the other given. It is a cornerstone of the courts. It is not simply a minority protection, but one of treating each human being with equality and dignity, safeguarding the foundation principle of justice. And
well said, ma'am. Well said. Let me then take this to Saira Shah Halim. Saira Shah Halim, in a truly secular democracy, should religion-based personal laws take precedence when it comes to issues of, let's say, inheritance or marriage or divorce? Shouldn't the law be applied equally to all Indian citizens, irrespective of their religion?
See, firstly, Gaurav, whenever any law is framed, the whole intention is to provide for a speedy and equitable justice to all communities, to all religions, without any communal or religious bias. The irony is that the Muslims don't have an issue with it. And again, it is ironical.
So you're saying Muslims have no issue with Uniform Civil Code? Is that what you're saying?
Muslims don't have an issue. But here I'm trying to iterate a point that let us look at the draft. Where is the architecture of the draft? Because here we are opposing and supporting without a draft. And
no,
I think
but
that
which is what brings me to the point. What do you make of the Congress party saying the BJP is doing this to polarize the electorate ahead of 2024 elections?
See, Gaurav, there is a sense of alarm that it might be a new version of the Hindu Code bill, which was imposed on the Hindus without their opinion. And that is the fear, because it is very clear that Article 25 gives us gives any religious group the right to manage its own affairs. So yes, there would be questions on
so it's
zakat,
okay to
whether
impose laws on Hindus in India. It's okay to impose laws on Hindus in India, but it's not okay to impose gender neutral laws for all Indian citizens if they are Muslims. Is that what you're saying, ma'am?
See, Gaurav, if UCC means adoption of children, irrespective of the community, it is welcome. If UCC means divorce and equal rights to women, to everybody, it is welcome. If UCC means equal inheritance rights of women, it is welcome. However, the imposition of one religion or one religious personal laws on all communities, that is when the question arises, that because we need to respect Article 25, which gives
No,
the
but how is
religious
that
groups
imposition?
the
Sanju
right to
Verma,
manage their
Sanju
own
Verma,
religious
Saira
affairs.
Shah Halim says, Hindu laws will be imposed on Muslims, if that is what I was able to understand clearly. Respond, Sanju Verma. Is that what your government
you.
intends to do?
Gaurav, the arguments that, a Hindu code will be imposed is so laughable. It's a tragic had it not been so funny. But anyway, let me come to the meat of the argument. Gaurav, one very interesting thing which I found out while doing research on Uniform Civil Code is that way back when Jawaharlal Nehru was the Prime Minister of India, and obviously a bona fide Congress member at that, the Special Marriage Act was introduced in 1952. And there are umpteen addresses by Nehru himself saying that the Special Marriage Act of 1952 is the first step towards having a uniform civil code, but somehow in the din of appeasement politics followed by various Congress leaders in decades succeeding 1952, the call for a uniform civil code was completely lost. I just want to say one thing. What is the Muslim population in India? About 14.5% of India's population. Christians, about 2.3%, Sikhs, about 1.4%, Buddhists, about 0.74%, Parsis, about 0.3%, hardcore Zoroastrians, about 0.1%. I have not seen Jains, Parsis, Buddhists, Christians, Sikhs, who are actually a minority, ever complaining about uniform civil code.
Okay.
And in the last couple of years, I've been on zillion debates. Muslims are the second biggest majority in India. They are not a minority any longer. And yet, the only people who seem to be having a whole lot of issue with the uniform civil code is the Muslim community. And Gaurav, 10 seconds.
Okay.
I will also say that not all Muslims are against uniform civil code. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board, which only represents a handful of Sunni Muslims, these are the people who are against uniform civil code, whereas the All India Muslim Personal Law Board does not, either represent the Shia Muslims, it does not represent the Bora Muslims, it does not represent the Ahmadiyya
No,
Muslims.
but why
So
should
if-
anyone be opposed to the Uniform Civil Code is my point, Zeenat Shaukat Ali. Before I
Exactly.
bring in Saira Shah Halim, if the Uniform Civil Code talks about laws that will make gender neutral, religion neutral laws for property, marriage, divorce, inheritance, succession, Zeenat Shaukat Ali, why should anyone oppose it irrespective? If Hindus oppose it, it's wrong. If Muslims oppose it, isn't it wrong? If anybody opposes it, isn't it wrong, man? Ma'am, shouldn't there be equal laws for all Indian citizens?
I think it's time now that we have to consider this problem very, very seriously and understand and remove the misunderstandings, that have crept in, that this is going to be a takeover. Instead of that, if we have to concentrate on the justice part and the constitution of which is the constitutional right of every Indian citizen, the Uniform Civil Code actually is in the best interest of religions. It is not against, it does not negate religious sentiments, but regressive dogmas wherever they are present. And that are not in keeping with harmony and justice, equity or good conscience.
Absolutely.
And that is what the Uniform Civil Code is about, and no religion. And let me tell you, as a very small student of Islam, Islam has given women many, many rights which have never been discussed out there in 75 years of our independence. We have never brought those. Triple talaq was never part of Islam. All over the world it has been changed. The khula today, it's only last year that the judges have been able to say that the woman has the complete right to divorce her husband as a man has, is also a right that I've written about in my book so many years ago. But
Yes.
the point is that these have never been implemented by the community.
It has never been implemented by the community, so the reform should come from within the community instead of this resistance that is coming. And Saira Shah Halim, even if we were to just pick up this one aspect of divorce, it was in 1791 that Olympe de Gouges, and she's a revolutionary, she was a revolutionary women's rights activist in France. In 1791, she sought equal rights for women in France and the right to divorce. She is still date-hailed as one of the world's best revolutionary feminist leaders. And ma'am, in 21st century India, in the year 2023, we have women also who are opposing the Uniform Civil Code and on religious grounds.
That is what I'm saying, Gaurav. The Constitution is directing the government to bring all communities together on matters that are currently governed by the respective personal laws. But here I am saying, where is the consensus? Because here it is very clear that the stakeholders of all communities have not been asked. That is the reason
they are being asked. The consultative process is on right now. My point is, this shouldn't the country be governed by the Constitution, Samvidhan, and not Sharia or any other religious book of any religion?
Gaurav, like again I said, it is desired, but right now we need to ask, is this enforceable at this point of time when there's so many grappling issues that surmounts the country? Because here, if you look at Article 47, it directs a state to prohibit the consumption of intoxicating drinks and alcohol.
So drugs, women's rights, you're equating women's rights as an educated Indian woman, you're equating women's rights with consumption of alcohol, ma'am.
No, Gaurav, I'm simply using it as an example that alcohol, though Article 47 clearly says, it tells the state to prohibit the consumption of drugs and alcohol, but isn't it freely available in all states of the country? I mean, are we going to go ahead and ban alcohol? So again, the thing is, what is enforceable and what is mandatory? That is the question. Is it?
But shouldn't Muslim women be seeking equal rights? Shouldn't all women be seeking equal rights is my only point. Sanju Verma, there are many sections of society, and as Saira Shah Halim very rightly pointed out earlier, they want to follow their personal laws. There are various others who want to follow their personal laws. They argue this is the beauty of India, unity in diversity. And that diversity, ma'am, is being steamrolled in the name of one nation, one law.
Gaurav, the most repetitive argument that I have come across from people who don't support Uniform Civil Code is the fact that, you have multitude of laws, even as far as Hindus are concerned. Why is it that now you need to have a codified common civil law? So I will just say this. Hindus progressively over the centuries have done away with regressive laws. For instance, sati actually was first banned way back in 1829. Female infanticide, Gaurav, was banned way back in 1870 and is now punishable by Section 315 of the Indian Penal Code. Dowry was banned and made punishable under the IPC in 1961. As recently as 2001, Gaurav, Christian divorce laws were amended to make them gender neutral. Hindu succession and inheritance laws were changed in 2005 after being formed way back in 1928. My limited point is this. If Hindus, who constitute almost 80% of India's population, have had no problems doing away with and eradicating regressive civil laws, why is it that the second largest community in this country, Muslims particularly, why are some of them so averse to the idea of a common civil code? And a common civil code does not mean that plurality is getting destroyed, or that, we are trying to have, the Hindu code being steamrolled
common civil law for common civil law for all. Common civil law for all Indian citizens. Is it time to bring it? Consultation process has started once again. Let there be an informed debate, and we'll be tracking that story very, very closely. Dr. Zeenat Shaukat Ali, Saira Shah Halim, and Sanju Verma for joining me here on this India Today special. Many thanks. There's breaking news that's coming in. Big story from Jammu and Kashmir. 5 terrorists have been neutralized in an encounter with the security forces in Jammu and Kashmir. And in a major blow to Pakistan's state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, 5 foreign terrorists have been gunned down by the security forces in Jammu and Kashmir. And this was a joint anti-terror operation launched by the army and the Jammu and Kashmir police in North Kashmir. The latest information that we have is that this was an operation that was launched in the Jumagund area of North Kashmir, of Kupwara, not far from the line of control in North Kashmir, and 5 terrorists were killed as they crossed the line of control attempting to come into the Kupwara sector of North Kashmir. And so far 5 bodies have been recovered, 5 AK-47 assault rifles, 14 hand grenades, a large amount of ammunition and other warlike stores have been recovered from the bodies of the 5 terrorists killed. The information that we have is that this was an operation that was mounted based on very specific intelligence alerts, and this was a joint operation by the Jammu and Kashmir police and by the army in North Kashmir. Combing operations were on till a short while back. Those are over. Let's quickly cut across and listen in to the army and the police on these operations.
At around midnight in the intervening night of 15 and 16 June 2023, movement of terrorists was picked up by the alert troops braving challenging terrain and weather conditions along the line of control fence. The infiltrating terrorists were engaged with precise and accurate fire, and in the ensuing firefight, 5 unidentified terrorists were neutralized. The terrorists were heavily armed and appeared to be very well trained. 5 AK series rifles, 15 magazines, ammunition, grenades, night vision devices, binoculars were recovered.
We will continue to track developments on the story very closely. Coming up next is Business Today with Abha Bakaya.
Credible ranking of India's best B schools is back in an all-new avatar, bigger and better than before. Catch the 2023 listings of MBA programs, technology companies, and the top executive courses. Don't miss the 24th edition of the Business Today Best B Schools and HR Summit on 23rd June in New Delhi.
India and the US are all set to ink a landmark agreement for the manufacture of the General Electric 414 fighter jet engines in India. India's indigenous light combat aircraft is currently powered by the GE 404 engine, and New Delhi and Washington DC have been negotiating for the more advanced GE 414 engines to power the LCA Mark II and the advanced 5th generation medium combat aircraft.
We established an ambitious new roadmap for defense industrial cooperation, which will fast track high priority co-development and co-production projects.
In January, the White House had confirmed receiving an application from General Electric to collaborate in the manufacturing of fighter jet engines in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Joe Biden had both pushed for the initiative on critical and emerging technologies, or ICET, and negotiations are being held between India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and his US counterpart Jake Sullivan. The GE 414 engine currently powers the FA-18 Super Hornets and Sweden's Saab Gripen fighter jets. The General Electric company says both South Korea and India's Hindustan Aeronautics Limited are working to acquire the GE414 engine.
Having a tie-up for a good engine technology is something we've been looking for a while, and this is going to be a big game changer because your subsequent aeroplane design can be based on this particular engine, which is reliable, fuel efficient, and can take the aeroplane to higher Mach number speeds.
The deal, once inked, goes to the US Congress for approval. In fact, the GE414 engine had been shortlisted for Hindustan Aeronautics Limited's LCA Mark II ever since 2010. Analysts say initially components are likely to be manufactured in India, but New Delhi is looking at manufacturing the entire engine in India, not just for use by the Indian Air Force in India, but also look at possible upgrade and export of future engines. Fighter jet engines have been India's Achilles heel since the failure of the Hindustan Fighter 24 Marut experiment. The twin engines on the Hindustan Fighter Marut were found to be underpowered for India's first attempt at manufacturing supersonic fighter jets. The indigenous Kaveri engine remains work in progress. The LCA is currently powered by the GE404 engine, but the LCA Mark II, the AMCA, and the Ghatak unmanned combat aerial vehicles are likely to be powered by the more powerful GE414 engines that boast of rapid engine throttle response, extra thrust, ready on demand, maximized time on wing, easier maintenance, and lower life cycle cost. The move is also being seen as an important step to take the India-US relationship to the next level and gradually wean India away from the Russian arms market. Bureau Report, India Today.
So sorry.
Hello and welcome. You're with us here on Business Today. I'm Abha Bukaya. Here are the day's top stories. It's a red letter day for markets as indices close at their record high. Sensex up 467 points. Nifty rallies 138 points. Investors richer by 2 lakh crore rupees. Scathing reviews of film Adipurush, which was released today, hits the stock of PVR Inox hard. Traders sell the share expecting theatres to go empty. Mega release sinks PVR by more than 3%. Foxconn betting big on India for its EV plans. The company already manufacturing Apple handsets in India and now in talks to manufacture EVs here in India. Micron Technology close to committing $1 billion towards setting up a chip packaging factory in India. A formal announcement expected when Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits the US next week. War of words with Modi minister's explosive rebuttal of Raghuram Rajan. Rajiv Chandrasekhar counters the former RBI governor's claim that PLI scheme has not helped the mobile manufacturing sector. It was a red letter day at the Lal Street with the Sensex and Nifty at lifetime closing highs. Both posted gains for a fourth consecutive week. The strength in the equity market also propped up the Forex market with rupee rallying 25 paise and the small and mid-cap indices also hitting highs for a sixth consecutive session. The Sensex was up 467 points and the Nifty was up 138 points. The top Nifty gainers today: HDFC Life, SBI Life, Bajaj Finserv, Dr. Reddy's and Titan. And among the losers today, some of the IT names, Bajaj Auto, BPCL and ONGC. So are the good times back for India's new age digital stocks? That's what investors are wondering after the Nifty Digital Index has shown some life in the past few weeks. The index includes stocks like Zomato, Nykaa, PB Fintech and Paytm, which become subjects of ridicule after their listings. The shares are recovering now, and my colleague Sakshi Batra spoke to market analyst Sonam Srivastava about the trend.
Fortunes really changing for this sector as a whole?
No, I think that's quite true, right? These stocks corrected in 2021 because of the valuation worries, right? We were entering a bear market, a volatile time, and these stocks corrected because they were highly valued. But what has happened right now is that all these stocks have started delivering in terms of revenue growth, in terms of improving their margins, and the path to profitability remains visible in the near term, in the next few years, right? So I think this is an extremely exciting theme, right? If these stocks can turn around their valuations, right, so they become favorites of brokerage houses that they're already becoming. So I think it's a very exciting theme, and I would be quite positive about it. This sector, especially because the FIIs are also coming in and buying, and mutual funds are supporting it, and there seems to be a very, very positive, secular story about this.
So Sonam, which will be your top picks from this basket from the new age space?
So I think there are quite a few exciting stocks. Obviously, Paytm is doing extremely well, and Zomato is a favorite among, I think, a lot of fund houses. Obviously, we also received a news that SoftBank is selling shares in Paytm and Zomato now, right, in the open market. So that might bring on some correction for these stocks. But I think, in the near to long term, there's a lot of potential for these stocks.
So do you think Zomato at 74, if somebody buys right now, can actually aim for a target of 100 rupees or so?
I think that is achievable, but that would totally depend on the earnings coming out of Zomato in the next quarter.
Sure.
Right?
Sure, absolutely. Even for Paytm, we've seen a surge of about 90% from its all-time low levels as well. How much more potential would this stock have? Can it really reach the IPO levels and then beyond it as well?
I think definitely, and again, like similar to Zomato, the numbers would govern its future, right? Like everybody on the street is just watching for the profitability numbers. And I think they are delivering on it. And if they can do that, then we can see, massive growth from it.
The world's largest iPhone manufacturer is betting on India to enter the electric vehicle business. Foxconn, a Taiwanese company already manufacturing Apple handsets in India, is reportedly in talks with several states to build its EV plant. The company sees India as a hub to service demand in the entire Southeast Asia region.
It's the world's largest manufacturer of technology products. Some of the global electronics giants rely on it to make their own gadgets. And now, Foxconn is gradually ramping up its reliance on India. The Taiwanese tech giant is all set to enter the electric vehicle manufacturing business in India. According to reports, Foxconn is already in talks with at least 4 states to find a suitable site for its EV operations. It is not clear whether the company will contract manufacture for another brand or create its own branded products. The Indian EV market is one of the fastest growing in the world, with electric two-wheeler sales rising 80% in the first 5 months of this year over the past year. E-two-wheeler sales in fact crossed the 1 lakh mark for the first time ever in May. Electric car sales this year have risen at a phenomenal 137%. According to Foxconn's annual report, the company will set up a production line with the government's help this year. EVs made in India will cater to demand in Southeast Asia